and then I will hand over to Matthew for the presentation. Thank you very much. Let me just find, you've disappeared in the list of names now. There we go. Fantastic. So I shall let you take it away, Matthew.
Great, so I can now share my screen. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Well, first of all, James, thank you so much for organizing this. And I feel very privileged to be the first person to kick off these lunchtime webinars, which I think are a great idea. As I say, I've chosen to speak about micro-content and the way they relate to search, because I think both these topics are very important. I'm going to try and stick to half an hour, so I'm going to keep the pace up. I'm not going to linger. I'm going to resist the temptation to waffle on, which I often do. A little bit of background. I've been working in tech comms for a good few years now. I'm now, as some of you know, an independent trainer and consultant focusing on user assistance design, what we used to call online help. And I'm mainly focused on MadCap products these days, and I'm a certified Flare instructor. I do work with other tools as well. What we're going to cover is, first of all, I'm going to show some examples of what we call, or what Google call anyway, it was them that coined this term, featured snippets. Going to look at some examples of featured snippets in search results on the web, nothing to do with Flare. And then I'm going to go into Flare and I'm going to show you how some techniques for implementing for using micro-content to create these things called featured snippets. And then I'll just summarize the tips and techniques, and then we'll move into questions. And hopefully there'll be plenty of time for questions. Oh, Sue got our first contract from Digitext. That must have been a long time ago, Sue. Great, exciting to hear that. Right, okay, some examples of what we call featured snippets. Now, a featured snippet, just to give you a very, very brief definition, is a little bit of content which appears always at the very top of search results. And it is content which has been sort of curated from the other pages that appear in the sort of top 10 list of results. So it's provided by Google, the featured snippet, but it's not content that originates from Google. It is content that they have distilled out of the top 10 search results. And the idea is that this featured snippet, this little panel of content at the top of search results, may give you the answer to your question. It may give you the information that you're actually searching for without needing to click further, without actually needing to click on any of the search results, which is amazing. And you know, that's the sort of holy grail for us, is that we want to give people the answers to their questions as quickly as possible with as few clicks as possible. So here I've searched in Google for the word micro-content, and right at the top of the results I get this little definition, which came from this website, the Norman Nielsen website. A couple of other examples, and this is an interesting example because it shows that the information you get in these featured snippets is only as good as the information within the web pages that appear in the top 10 results, and they also change over time. I searched here on fastest reptile, and I've apparently got an immediate answer. The fastest reptile in the world are green sea turtles. Fantastic. They reach speeds of 22 miles an hour. However, if you compare that with what I got earlier this year, I did the same search in June, and I got these results. Sorry, was this June? I can't see because yes, it was June. And in fact, the sea turtle is not #1 there. It's down at #3. And then when I did it again in November last year, I was told the bearded dragon was the fastest reptile. So it's great. I'm getting answers, and they're right at the top. But as I say, they are only as good as the answers within the web pages that Google is indexing. These are not definitive answers provided by Google. And just to sort of show how good Google is at processing and interpreting queries, its language, its understanding of language is very good. They have this amazing technology called the knowledge graph, which sort of understands concepts. So putting in a search query like Alsatian diet, it knows I'm probably talking about dogs and what's best to feed German Shepherds, which is the sort of the other term for this breed. And there it is, a little summary of what I should feed my German Shepherd at the top of my search results. Now the wording is critical. What I found is if you use different words in your search queries, you will get different results. For example, if you, and by the way, these featured snippets are particularly good at responding to questions. So here I've actually typed in a question: how big is a black hole? And I've got, as I say, a really nice answer with some pictures as well. And it's kind of answering my question. I don't need to click on any links. What I found was that if I search on dimensions of black hole, which is, you would think, more or less the same thing, then I get a result that is actually curated from a different web page. And this is kind of interesting. Maybe it's to do with the language I used. This was sort of more, everyday language. So I'm getting more of a sort of layman's answer. Now, by using the word dimensions, I'm showing perhaps I have a more scientific bent, and I'm getting a more detailed, more technical scientific answer, which is kind of interesting. Now, what I wanted to show you now is that what you get in the featured snippet is very often a kind of customized and distilled version of the web page from which Google is extracting that content. And I've got a couple of examples of that to show you. I Googled the rules of chess, and I got this lovely featured snippet which includes some pictures, which is very pithy. It really just focuses on the key aspect of rules of chess, which is the moves. And I guess this is what you're likely as a beginner to want to know. How do I move my pieces? So it's given me 4 of the key pieces, not all of the pieces, and it's given me a summary of their moves. Now, what you'll find is featured snippets always tell you where that content has been distilled from. So I thought, well, it would be interesting to see what is actually at this web page, chess rules and setup for kids and beginners. So, and here it is. What I'm showing here on the right-hand side is the actual web page containing those chess moves. And here's the featured snippet on the right. I've called it micro content because it's a sort of distilled, shortened version of what we see on the right. What Google has done is it's taken just the first sentence from this bullet about the king move, and then the queen move, the rook, bishop, and again it's ignored the second sentence of the rook. So it's taking the essence of the moves and providing that in the featured snippet. If this is totally automated, then it's very impressive. I suspect there is a certain amount of human intervention in doing some of this, and certainly there is going to be some human intervention when I show you how you can do this kind of thing in Flare. The other one I wanted to show you, the other example, is a search I actually genuinely did need to do not that long ago. I have Echo devices in my home, and I wanted to be able to use a different word rather than Alexa. So I Googled change Echo name, and this little featured snippet came up, which gave me the instructions. I didn't need to visit a page. Those instructions, in fact, are coming from the official help topic that Amazon provide on their site. And there it is, their help and customer service topic. And what Google has done is just extract the topic name and these key instructions without the little icon. So it didn't include the images. I'm sorry about that. Yes, if I've opened your Alexa, which I've just done again, I do apologize. So one of the things I wanted to mention here is the importance of, if you're writing help for products, the importance of making sure that your help, your official help, does appear right at the top of Google search results. If it does, there's a chance that your content may be the content to appear within that Google featured snippet, rather than, you know, content that's been written by one of your users and which may include inaccuracies. Incidentally, there are specific techniques you can use, search engine optimization techniques you can use for making sure your content is near the top of Google search results. There are also techniques you can use for kind of indexing your content and adding metadata, which makes it more likely it will appear as a featured snippet. I'm not going to talk about during this session. In fact, when I look in Flare and give you some techniques for creating featured snippets in Flare, those are going to be techniques for MadCap search, not for Google search, and that they will be completely different to the techniques you would use for getting your content as a Google featured snippet. All right, so hopefully you've got some idea of what we're talking about, and hopefully you see the benefits of featured snippets. And wouldn't it be nice if we could do this kind of thing in our own help content? So that's what I set out to do in Flare when MadCap introduced this new micro content feature, which is very much designed for being able to create these kind of featured snippets. Micro content does have other purposes, but the main one is for search. So the way it works is, and this is in a sort of general sense, first of all, is that we create in Flare, in our Flare project, a special micro content file, which consists of a pairing of a specific phrase, which are, if you like, the keywords that we're expecting our users to search for, and then what they call a response. Oh, sorry, I'll come on to the response in a minute. So if you imagine I'd written a help system on video games, then I might have a phrase that includes a description of one of my games, Animal Crossing New Horizons. That's the name of a game. And if the users then searched on that phrase, or even searched using one or more of those words, so if they searched on Animal Crossing or New Horizons, or even just searched on the word crossing, because I've included that word in my phrase, that is going to trigger a response, what MadCap calls a response, which might be a little bit of micro content which talks about this game, Animal Crossing, shows a picture and has a link to more information. So that's the information that I want to appear in my featured snippets. But as far as Flare goes, that what they do is they call it a phrase, which are the keywords, and a response, which is the kind of the content of our featured snippet. And here's another phrase, bomb chicken, leading to this description of the bomb chicken game. Now, we all know that users don't always use precisely the right terms. If you've done any indexing in the past, you know you've got to think of synonyms when you add words to your index. And similar thing applies to these phrases. You can add what are called alternative phrases. So you can, well, if someone is interested in playing a role play game, they might search on role play game, and you'd like that to trigger the same response. So we can actually, as well as the sort of main phrase, we can create as many alternate phrases, which all will trigger the same response, the same content in the featured snippet. And remember, I said that the user has to search on one or more of these keywords. So a search on deserted island, or a search on role play, or a search on customizable will all now lead to this response. With bomb chicken, it could be they search on puzzle game, or jungle. A search on jungle, because I've included that in one of my phrases, will give this result. So that's the sort of principle. That's the principle behind what happens. Let's now have a look at Flare and see the mechanics of it, and see the UI, and look at a couple of techniques. I'm not going to do a sort of step-by-step demo because that would take too long. So I'm effectively just sort of going to show you the finished result. So what I have here is a little Flare project that I created, which is all about the rules of chess. It's quite small. It's only got 6 topics. It's not totally comprehensive reference work to all the rules of chess, but you know, it's good enough. I will just open it up. No, I don't want to regenerate it. I don't think I've done much. I haven't changed it since I last built. So here we go. Here's my little help system. And Karen, I am using the side navigation in this case. Now, what I have done is I have added micro content, which means hopefully I have some useful useful featured snippets to show as a result of search queries. So I'm now going to invite you all to come up with a query. What might you be looking for? You can pretend you're a novice, total novice, or maybe you're sort of looking for something a bit more nuanced. What might you, what is en passant, Mark says. Oh, Queen's Gambit. All right, very good. I'll take a couple of those. So let's go with what is en passant. And let's see what we get. Aha! We get a featured snippet right at the top, which gives me a little summary of what en passant is. Looks like, yeah, so I was just did show more because we weren't seeing the entire featured snippet. We also get one search result, which has a lot of information about movement, including en passant. So that worked okay. Someone said knight moves, knight move. Better get it right. And the search for knight move does give me a little featured snippet about how a knight moves. What else did we have? James, can you pick out another suggested
how do
search?
I win? Does it have anything in there about
How do I win? Let's try that. How do I win? Okay, the featured snippet in this case has come up with end of the game and a little description of checkmate and resigning. Castling we have, okay, castling. And there we go, a little summary of castling. So in response to pretty much, why does knight move report 3 results? Because, okay, if I go back to knight move again, now the featured snippet we're hoping is giving me the essence of what they were looking for. Oh, I'm sorry, you have got to spell knight right. The reason I'm also getting these 2 other results is that it's still behaving like a normal MadCap search would. So in other words, it is showing me any topic that contains the word knight as well as the word move. So it must be that the end of the game must have the word knight somewhere in it and must have the word move somewhere in it. But the key thing is that what we get at the very top of the screen is the kind of essence, is the answer to the question.
I think, if I may, Matthew, I think what part of the question is because it says at the top of the search page, it returns 3 results. So
oh, I see. I'm sorry. Yes,
as well.
I understand your question. I understand the question. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. It's actually it's actually counting that featured snippet as a result, which maybe we as help authors find a little strange, but perhaps a sort of a user wouldn't necessarily query that because they are seeing 3 results. They're saying a featured snippet plus 2 other topics. But yeah, I see what you mean. Yes, you might count that. You might have counted that as 2 results plus a featured snippet. Yeah, good point. All right. Well, let's just have a look at how we did this then. How this worked. So I'm going to go into the Flare project. Now it's all driven by a special file within my project, which is a micro content file. This is a new file type that was introduced into Flare last year. Flare, I think it was Flare 2019, this new feature came in. So we have a new file type, an FLMCO, which is a micro content file. It lives in your Content Explorer. It counts as content. It has a special editor. So I'm going to open up this micro content file. I'm going to, actually, let's just drag it to the main part of the editor. I had it tiled on the right-hand side earlier, so I could put it side by side with topics. So essentially, what we've got here is a list of all the phrases that I was anticipating my users might search on, including the what is castling that indeed you did search on, and the night moves, and the how do I win. Now, notice there I've said how do I win or finish, because yeah, it was the reason I put that in actually is when I first created this, I did a bit of user testing, and I tested it on my wife, Georgette, and she's not a big chess fan, and her first question she came up with was, how do I stop the game? She wasn't that interested in winning, she just wanted to stop playing. So I thought, well, yeah, I'd better put in the word finish. And I did include stop as a synonym for finish. I'll talk about synonyms in just a minute. So these are all the sort of trigger phrases. For each one of those, as we click on it, you will see a piece of content on the right, which is the response. Now, the way it works in Flare's micro content editor is you can add a phrase and then literally just type in some content on this right-hand side in the micro content editor. So you can use this editor for creating new content. But my feeling was, well, I've already got all the content I need within my regular topics, within my ordinary topics. So what I'd rather do is reuse that content. And there is a way for each one of these phrases to actually link it to an existing piece of content, either a topic or a snippet or a section of a topic. So let's take an example, initial setup. Oh, and by the way, remember I mentioned that there were alternate phrases. You can have alternate phrases. If I expand initial setup, you'll see all the other alternate phrases that I set up. Now, as a matter of fact, there's no sense of a main phrase and alternate phrases. They all have equal weight. So it doesn't really matter whether my users search on how do I start or initial setup. They are both equally going to trigger this response of initial setup. What I've done in this case is I've linked these phrases to a topic. There is a topic called initial setup, which I'm going to open. Sorry, it's going to take a few seconds to open because I think I rather stupidly put some SVG graphics in this topic, which means it does open somewhat slowly. Probably not the best topic to demonstrate. While it's just opening, I can't do anything until it has opened. So excuse me. Do ask a question at this point while this is just opening up. I'm hoping this is the only delay I will get. Waiting for time. Yeah. All right. There we go. Right. So here's my initial setup topic. Here is my featured snippet. Now you will see that even though I link to that topic, you'll see that what we're seeing in the micro content editor is a kind of shortened version of this full topic. This full topic is quite long. I've got to scroll down through it. It's got pictures in it. This is too long, in my view, to be used as a featured snippet. You generally want to keep featured snippet to a really bite-sized bit of content that doesn't require scrolling. So how have I done this? How have I managed to get a shortened version that is reused? Yeah, I mean, I can promise you that if I add some content here, well, let's just prove it. If I put in Matthew here, and I save that to save all, and we go back and have a look at the feature snippet. There we are. That content has appeared here in the piece of micro content. The way it works is that what I've done is I have used conditions. I have a condition called long form only, and I've applied that condition to any content which I thought was sort of somewhat extraneous, was not getting to the real nub of the initial setup. So the pictures I've applied the condition to, any sort of extra information in brackets or extra detail I've applied it to. So anything we see is pale blue, that is saying that that's only for my full long form topic. And what I can then do is, in the featured snippet, all I do is I go to the properties of this particular piece of micro content, and I exclude that long form only content. This is by the way, this feature was new in Flare 2020, the ability to go into the properties of a piece of micro content and exclude. You're probably used to excluding conditions in your target, but here we're actually saying I want to exclude this when the topic appears as micro content. If I didn't exclude it, you would find that the micro content then became I may need to reload. But anyway, the full content would appear in that micro content. So that's one way of doing it, linking to a topic and using conditions. What I did, I think, for queen and knight moves is I've actually linked those to snippets. I have a snippet for each of my moves, and the snippets are small. I could also use conditions if I want to make them even smaller. So knight moves, queen moves are all linked to the individual snippets. And then in my movement topic, I do have a topic on movement which covers all the moves, including queen moves, knight moves, bishop moves. What I've done here is include all of those snippets. So this is a long form topic made up of bolting together all those individual snippets. But I'm using the individual snippets as my micro content. And then the final technique is, Don is saying, do you have to exclude long form only for each? Yes, you do. For each, you have to go in and choose the properties for each piece of micro content. There may be one or two where you don't want to exclude long form only. So you do have to, it may be that one piece of micro content is highly focused where, and in fact, I think that's the case with queen moves. If you have a look at the properties here, I have not excluded it because I wanted to include that little picture in the queen moves, but in the micro content called movement, I think I have one general one on movement of chess pieces. For that one, because I'm pulling in all the snippets, here I did want to exclude the long form only, because then having all those images would be too much by including all the snippets. And then finally, the last one I wanted to show you was, let's see, how do I resign the game? I have a phrase for that. Here we are. How do I resign the game? Now, what I've done there is linked it to the end of game topic, but I didn't think the entire topic was relevant. I just wanted a section of that topic. So one of the things you can do in Flares, if we go to that topic, is you can actually highlight a section of the topic and mark it up as being a piece of content you want to use as micro content. If I show you in the text editor, I've actually got a special micro content tag wrapped around that with an ID, which means I can then use just that section of the topic, not the entire topic, but just that little piece of the topic as a piece of micro content. And that's what I've done with how do I resign the game. So the result is I just get that appearing, resigning, which is just one section of the end of game topic. And the last thing I wanted to show you was, as I mentioned, users don't always use the terms we expect. So just to top all of this off, I have a synonym file where I've said that, for example, resign and surrender and concede all mean exactly the same thing. What that means is that if the user types in, how do I surrender? Because surrender is a synonym of resign, that will be treated exactly as if they had typed, how do I resign? And will therefore trigger this piece of microcontent. So I don't need to include all those different synonyms in my microcontent phrases. I can just include one of the words, and all the others, surrender, concede, will be treated the same. How do I concede the game? How do I surrender the game? Will still give my resigning topic. I better prove that. Let's say, how do I surrender should give resigning. So that is pretty much all I wanted to show you. I've got a little summary which summarizes some of the techniques about using microcontent responses. The wording is important. Yes, one thing I did just forget to mention, which is that I did include the word queen. Sorry, let's give a better example. I did include the word king all on its own, somewhere. What I found is that just because I can't see. Yes, here's a good example. The word queen. If I assume that if the user searched on the word queen, the thing they were most interested in was the queen's moves. And by using a single keyword, even if I've then used the word queen in another phrase, Flare will prioritize that. If the user just searches the word queen and there is a single word keyword using the word queen, it will target that rather than keywords that mention the word queen. So it is worth not only including long strings of words to make sure you include a word that the user might search on, but you also perhaps include more targeted keywords that include just one or two words, because those will be prioritized if the user searches on one of those two words. And that's what I've tried to express here. And then I'd mentioned the fact that you can link to topics and snippets and topic extracts, and the fact that you can use conditions to filter out the unwanted content. Someone's just mentioned Robalt there, and I have a feeling I did briefly look at the latest version of Robalt. There's a new release of Robalt this year, and they have begun to introduce a microcontent feature. I'm not sure that it has all the features that I've demonstrated there of Flare, but I know that Adobe are taking this seriously now and are beginning to work on microcontent within Robalt. So I would expect possibly Robalt to try and emulate this this kind of thing as well. At the moment, I don't think you can do any of this stuff in anything but Flare. And remember as well that what I've just shown you is only going to affect your MadCap search. It's not going to give you those featured snippets in Google's own search on the web. That's a different technique altogether. Okay, good. I'm going to stop sharing now, and then that'll take me back to the chat window. Feel free to come on camera or to speak to me. And James, feel free to pass me any good questions that I might have missed.
Thank you, Matthew, for all of that. I will end the recording now.